watching the Danny Jones podcast. It's like God, religion goes in the brain. What happens when we die? And the guy's like John Vervicky, and he starts talking about the AI grief bots and how I guess he said his wife they were talking, and I'll say his wife said, he says, oh, even when I die, you can still you can still talk to me when I die. And she's like, oh, I don't want that. Even after I die, you could have almost almost same person. Well, at least the idea is similar to what this guy would be even after death. And that brought me to it when they were mentioning that. It brought me to a TV series called Altered Carbon on Netflix, and basically, you could transfer your consciousness into like this little fucking disc, and you could continue to live, but using different bodies, right? Which also goes to the Chris Bledsoe thing where Chris Bledsoe said that the angel he talked to basically had many names: Cleopatra, Patrick, Virgin Mary, all these different people, right? This angel lived through different bodies and different timelines, but was able to retain its consciousness. And then, as I mentioned, the Altered Carbon series is basically that. Basically, they could transfer their consciousness to a different body, right? And then this guy's talking about how the Dr. Harvey is. I think he's a fucking teacher or something, college teacher, professor. Professor of psychology or whatever, and he's like, oh, we come, right? So you get all that, and I'm thinking about the thing about the spirit and soul. What if it? I guess it's the same thing, but I guess what I'm trying to differentiate is what because you could just say the same thing as a soul and a spirit. Yeah, my whole idea is a spirit is a part of the simulation. The spirit is you're basically an NPC. A soul it comes from the soul realm, and they are trapped or they choose to come into the simulation and we call and stuff like that, right? So that's my idea. The thing is probably it follows like they could do the same thing at the same thing, whatever. But basically, what I'm thinking is maybe you could transfer your if you're a spirit, you could transfer your consciousness somewhere else, and it goes to the other thing where I'm like deletion might be a example of might be free will because spirit is basically helping the main character, the soul, get to a story plot, wherever that may be, And if you cut yourself off, if you're a spirit, that means you just ruined the whole fucking the timeline. So people have to maneuver shit around, which goes to where Chris Bledsoe says is that there's people who who are time travelers who try to fix the timeline to make sure everything goes according to plan and stuff like that. So you know, right? So that I said, when you delete yourself, you're able to have free will and maybe also retain all your memories. Because he also said he also said that there's a planet where you basically like the Men in Black, where they say, look at this thing and you're gonna forget this moment, and basically they have that. And I'm thinking, because I'm thinking, why are we freaking? Because I'm of the belief that we have lived multiple lives and stuff like that. And my thing is, how did we forget the past lives? And why haven't we retained the previous lives? Or even right now, why haven't we retained all the information? I understand, like, if you're fucking up your shit, your vessel, yes, you could fuck up your memory, right? But if you're solid with your whole body and making sure everything's up to snuff, why are you forgetting some of these things where it should be like a computer, a good running computer? If it's running solid and stuff like that, you wouldn't have no problem with keeping all the information in that computer and stuff like that, right? So so that confused me, and then he mentions that, and then for some reason I went to death, and like maybe it's a bad thing to dig us 6 feet under, because if it digs us 6 feet under, maybe there's a fucking, just say there's like if you go 6 feet under, you're basically hitting this fucking thing that's encircles the whole, we call the whole earth, that once you hit the 6 feet under, it's like a barrier, and once you hit that, you essentially erase all the memories. And so when you leave, your conscious, your spirit leaves the body to go somewhere else, it immediately erases your past. So as soon as you die, you're in this box, and then all of a sudden your spirit leaves, and it tries to go past this barrier, and then all the information is recall. It doesn't have to be necessarily 6 feet under and recall. You could just lose yourself within the time you go, and then all of a sudden, because you're entering you're leaving the vessel, and then you're entering the simulation, and then there's a bunch of fucking barriers that as soon as you touch it, you're forgetful, and then the simulation takes you to another body, then you're born again, and so forth, right? So I go to deletion, I go to that, then I'm like, then as I mentioned on the previous one, my guy talks about how Neo had an awakening, and found, so you don't necessarily have to be deleted to retain all your information if you're lucky enough to maneuver through the bullshit that is maybe barriers. Because the reason why I say these barriers is because you go back to some guy from Jason Michael's podcast, where he talks about how he talks about how there's like these fucking invisible lines. If you cross it, you forget your memory and stuff like that. You get trapped and stuff like that. And they say that's why we can't leave Earth, because some shit. It's like that. So that's where I get that information, right? And then I'm like, so if you're able to maneuver through that shit and not get zapped, you can still retain your information, and maybe it's probably more easier, because if you delete yourself, maybe you're able to maneuver a little bit more easy, because they have no barrier ready to set up for you when you do that, because it's all simulation is simulating a reality that's already existed, and you're just playing through it. And if you're playing through it for the soul and stuff like that, boom, and then so if you die, they know you die, so to get ready for the barriers, whatever it may be, to erase your memory and put you back into a different body to continue on the path of the timeline, to continue on the timeline that needs to be unraveled, right? And if you delude yourself, I believe that maybe they're not ready to erase your memory and stuff like that, right? And then the guy's like, yeah, but you don't. Why does it? The guy told him that, he's like, hey, but maybe deletion helps you get your free will and stuff like that. It's like, why does it have to be like that? Blah blah blah. So he's like, Matrix. He didn't recall. He found he was awakened, and then there's a thing where, Morpheus is a Morpheus inside this world who comes up to find people and says, hey, you know something, and we're gonna show you, reality and recall, and then everyone's like, oh shit, this is a simulation and stuff like that. And that's one path, and this is the other path, which is basically the altered carbon slash Chris Blatz, well, not Chris Blatz, yeah, I guess reincarnation altered carbon, where you could actually grab the information of your recall consciousness or your spirit, and you could put it in this little chip and you could transfer it to another body and stuff like that. So I think there's another way. I think there's a lot more ways. I'm just right now, those are the 3 ways now. You can get an awakening, deletion, or you could continue this path by our size progressing it up to where we could capture consciousness, or in my case the spirit, and transfer to a different body, and you could continue to live the life we call it. And then also the cool thing about that one too is about the altered carbon one. I guess when the second season started, he was, or I think the first season or second season, I think it was the first, I'm not sure, first season, I think it's the first season. It could be the second season, but the guy was in prison, and so all he saw was darkness until they gave his chip into a body, and now he could see. The thing I also mentioned about the atheism, which is if you're a soul. And if you're atheist, or if you're a spirit and you're atheist, 2 things happen. One, they're both atheists, a soul and a spirit, both are atheists. The difference is when a spirit dies, he sees nothing but black. He sees nothing but nothing. When a soul dies, he sees the soul realm. Because even though he believes, atheism, we call, in reality he's not a part of simulation. He's part of the soul realm. So he gets spit back over there. Whereas the spirit realm doesn't. The spirit gets nothing. He gets a fucking solid nothing. And then you could go with that. You could go like this spirit, NPC. This probably it could be multiple recall. It could be like the spirit gets blackness. I think also the thing is also a spirit could also get Jesus. It could get Hinduism, it could get Buddha, whatever religion out there, it could get that too. The only reason why it will get that is because of the simulation still think it's useful, and that if the spirit just lives like an NPC to the T, lives like just lives like to the T, then it's like there's no purpose in keeping you, because you're not being different. And it could be the opposite way around, where it's like, oh, you're too different, we gotta cut you off because you're starting to break the timeline just in yourself, because you're trying to maybe create free will, and then maybe in that case they want to get you blackness, which is nothing, might actually delete you and you're no longer a thing. Or in the other way would be, you are by the books, you're living life to the T, and they're like, yep, we need you because you're gonna fall in line with the timeline and you're not gonna fuck that up for us, and we don't have to worry about that. So I think that could be a thing where you could be actually you could actually just get blackness, or you could get, they're like the simulation is gonna like play games on you, like, oh, you thought you were gonna, you thought this world was weak, but in reality it's this, and we're gonna give you a little shock, and we're gonna send you back in there because we think you're useful to the simulation, to the timeline, and so forth. And I think where I was going with that, but yeah, I think that yeah, I think that, the deletion thing, awakening thing, and the transferring of information to another body thing. So I think the atheist thing is, no matter what, you could get both, either one. So no matter what, if you're whatever soul we call, you're gonna get whatever soul realm gives you, no matter what. That's like we call it. Like if everybody believes in some, like, just say around the world, the universal truth is Jesus Christ, and he will take you to God or whatever, right? No matter what. If you're Buddhism or whatever, Hinduism, Muslim, whatever, you're gonna find out that no matter what, it's gonna be Jesus. That's in the soul realm. The spirit slash part of the simulation. The spirit slash simulation. The spirit is the simulation. You're gonna see what you're gonna see, and sometimes what you're gonna see just straight blackness because you no longer serve a purpose. But in reality, whatever you die and whatever, I guess, say you're like a huge Christian person and then you need to be taught a lesson that everything is not weak, and so we're gonna throw you fucking Muslim, whoever that guy is, and we're gonna throw that God at you. And then when you come back, you're gonna maybe have a better perspective on different religions and maybe more willing to be more accepting of some people's belief instead of just solely one belief and stuff like that, whatever, right? And I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just think that, okay, so when you black out, as you can see nothing, or they could put you in like that same thing where they could just put you in the back pocket, and before they like, okay, we're gonna throw you back in there, and maybe, I don't know where I was going with that, with the blackness and we call, but yeah, maybe just a further explanation where I think about spirits and their beliefs and how they wake up. Maybe that's it. But I think right there, that's the thing I'm more or less recall. Is it transferring of souls? No, not souls, spirits into a different body, and being able to retain all that information? The only, like, it wouldn't make sense. It could make sense that you could delete that. Well, yeah, you could be like, I think they, maybe it's, I forgot that entire show, Altered Carbon. I don't know if they were able to, I think they were. Yeah, I think they were able to erase some of that. I think, I'm not sure. I haven't watched it for a long time. You could transfer your spirit into a little disc, and they could maybe erase things and stuff like that. or what retain information to the other body, and you're able to, you know, do that. And then and I'm thinking, what does that mean for the simulation slash God? Is it essentially God, and is like, yeah, you can't do that because you're essentially, maybe it could be like you could be altering the timeline, you could be, yeah, or it could like, you know what, you guys are pretty much on board with this idea, so we're gonna let you do this and stuff like that. Or, you know what I'm saying, or is it just basically the what's it, the inmates are running the asylum, and now the simulation can't control it, because now it's like, well, I can't control something that's already able to maneuver through whatever, you know, command or demand I have, because they have that power now to say no, or whatever the case be. Or the simulation is a simulation and there has no real control other than following the timeline, and the Chris Bessel thing mentions the adjustment bureau, where basically people come in and try to fix the timeline. And is it that just that simple, where there's no God in that the simulation is just a straight, we call just simulating stuff. There's nothing more to it but that, and these spirits are just, you know, free willing and shit like that, and the adjustment bureau is like, okay, we gotta make little things, because ultimately at the end of the day, these simulations, these spirits or simulation part, I don't know, say, when I say spirits, maybe say AI, they're like AI, are able to no matter how much they have free will, once you like turn, like kill a butterfly, or turn something, or do something to readjust the time, like they will abide by those rules, because essentially they have no free will. They may have it in the sense that they're able to go against God, or go against the timeline. They're able to deviate enough where, or yeah, I don't know. That one's kind of like we call it. It could be like that. It could be just either the timeline. So like free will. They could have, if they're free will, it's limited. And no matter how much they think they can have free will, once something happens, they will adjust to that. Because also, when I'm watching this guy, he talks about patterns and stuff like that, and you could essentially manipulate somebody and stuff like that to believe this thing, and so forth. And basically that, right? You could manipulate things, so forth, and to get us to either believe something or go as we please in this. You can manipulate someone to follow, like, say, I want to, like, if there's some guy who says a mind reader, right? He's gonna from the beginning of the conversation, he's gonna try to manipulate you to think a certain thing, so that when it comes up, he could be like, out of the blue, you are thinking of this, but in reality, he set everything up to make you think like that. And that could be the part of the simulation, where no matter what, you think you have free will, which you probably do, in the sense that you could deviate, but at some point, because of these adjustment bureau people who are time travelers, who are trying to make sure everything, the timeline goes according to plan, they could just turn something, and then you're like, oh, I'm being manipulated to go that way, and so I'm going to go that way. The only reason why you won't be able to go that way is because you somehow go beyond the manipulation and somehow know what's going on. So you're like, okay, so I'm going to ignore that and I'm going to go recall. But then again, if that happens, then maybe, you know, the whole fucking, like, Matrix deal once like I forgot but it might just I'm just probably using the visual more than whatever happened right there, but I forgot what happened. But Neo, I don't know, as I said, I don't know, so the visual, you'll remember the visual more than you, if I mentioned it you're like, oh, I remember that. He did something or whatever, they were doing something and whatever, and then all saying they noticed that he was doing something, so they all turned to him, and he's like, "Oh fuck," and that could be anything. But at some point where you're like, you breaking the simulation, no matter what, no matter what, if the time travelers are trying to fix it and trying to manipulate you to go back to the timeline, and you still ignore it, they're like, I think at that point everybody's gonna be looking at you like, oh shit, he's fucking up recall, and then you're getting attacked by time travelers or part of the simulations, the NPCs, the spirit AI might try to take you out, or just the time travelers, or the NPCs are like, what the fuck's going on with that person, But I think that's another option to the deletion, to the awakening, now to continuing retaining your information, which would be science figure out a way to grab consciousness / in my case spirit AI and transfer it into a different you could transfer it, put into a chip, and you could transfer it to different bodies and stuff like that. And I believe that's it. Yeah. Bye.